All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake News, guys and gals. I should say that. I say that every night, guys and gals. Well, welcome to Wide Awake News Radio. I am your host, Charlie McGrath. It is the 23rd day of July. The month is flying by. Tuesday, and I got a great guest coming up in a minute. But first, I want to say, if you're listening and not in our chat room, please go to wideawakenews.com, click on the Wide Awake Radio microphone, and get into the chat room. And you can join some other great folks who are in there right now. If you want to watch me do this program live, as well as our guest, we're both on Justin TV. The live feed's going. You can access that feed there. And of course, if you can't hang around for the whole program tonight, Gary, doing his great work, will put this all up on YouTube, and we'll have it posted there afterward as well. And I want to thank Gary Hendershot, of course, for producing Wide Awake News Radio every Tuesday night and every Monday night when he does his program, Wide Awake News Radio, featuring Gary Hendershot, which, if you haven't seen that yet, you can check that out. If you couldn't make yesterday's program, Gary's program's up on my YouTube channel, Krabby Dog Tricks. It's also up on my website, wideawakenews.com. You can check out his program. Gary, and I know I know your volume's down, Gary, but I just wanted to tell you, as we continue to post that and people see your presentation of the news, it's becoming more and more popular, and I'm noticing a lot more views on your radio program, or on your hour program that you do every Monday. So congratulations on that. Please don't forget to continue to support Wide Awake News Radio, even though I'm only here on Tuesday nights. We still do run 5 nights a week. Gary Hendershot on Monday, me on Tuesday, Woody O'Brien every Thursday, Woody O'Brien every Wednesday, Woody Wednesday. That's real easy to remember. Woody O'Brien every Wednesday, Eric Lovely every Thursday, and Karen Quinn Tostado wrapping it up every week on Friday. And of course, after every Wide Awake News Radio program, it is followed by the great Jeff Rince program. All right, I want to apologize. There's some people saying in the chat that they miss me. And that's great. I greatly appreciate that kind of support, guys. And my overall plan is not to slow down the amount of information that I try to put out. It was just to change the format a little. And in the last week or so, I've only been able to put out one video. So my plan failed miserably over the last week and a half. However, there was things that came up business-wise that prevented me from being able to put out a bunch of videos. So that is handled. You'll start to see a lot more coming out for me following the program tonight. In fact, there's one uploading right now. And my goal is to put out a video minimum of every other day. I would like to do one every day, a shorter, more concise, picking one topic and doing a commentary video on it. So please don't give up on wideawakenews.com or the YouTube channel. You will start seeing a lot more content on there in the way of commentary. In fact, the video I put out tonight had everything to do with, I'm checking the clock right now because I want to make sure I have enough time for Melanie to give an introduction before the first break. The video that I put out tonight is what you guys are used to, but it's a topic that I think is being completely and utterly missed in our media. In fact, I think our media is purposefully trying to lead us down a path that we don't need to go. It's irrelevance. Our media, our news that we're being fed is truly, you can look at it like cancer. It's cancerous, because the more we buy into it, the more we fall lockstep like a bunch of sheep into this propaganda trough, the more damage it does to us as a nation, as a people, as a planet, for that matter. You know, we turn on the television, we're entertained with the Trayvon Martin Zimmerman case. This case that is absolutely, and this is gonna tick some people off, but absolutely, completely is going to be a footnote in history. All due respect to the Zimmerman family, and all due condolences to the Martin family. It's a horrible, horrific event. However, it is a footnote in history. And to get the global attention that it's getting, you got to ask yourself why. Well, you don't have to look very hard. You can look around the country and you can see division: white against black, black against white, Hispanic against black. It's all a con game. It's all a distraction, so we're not paying attention to what's going on. Gay marriage. Gay marriage. Let people who are gay be married. Who cares? But to dominate our media, our cancerous media, this cancerous news, to buy into it and to be fed into this, you can see the result. It is division. Division amongst the people of the world. That's what it's all about. Divide, conquer. Distract, conquer. Detroit is in the news today. Detroit, the largest municipality to ever go bankrupt in the history of the United States of America. In the year 1961, it was the most, the highest wage per capita of any city in the United States was Detroit. Here we are, 50 short years later, and it's going broke. Now, instead of talking about the collusion between financial juggernauts and political sellout prostitutes that led to the decline of the economy of this planet, instead of pointing the finger where it deserves to be pointed when it comes to blame, we play the red team versus blue team game. It's the Democrats' fault that this happened. Nope. It's the Republicans' fault that this happened. Divide and conquer. Distract, divide, and conquer. So any mainstream issue you want to pull out of the headlines today, any mainstream media issue, cancerous issue, leads to one thing: a division of the people of this country. So what's really happening in the news? Well, today we have the General of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States send a letter to the war hawk John McCain and other war hawk senators inside of Congress, telling them that a no-fly zone inside of Syria would be absolutely ineffective because the Syrian military uses mainly ground forces in order to affect this campaign against the rebels. I'm doing air quotes if you're not watching on JTV. It would be ineffective and useless because they're not flying around planes killing people in the numbers that were being sold. Not only that, it would cost the American taxpayer $1 billion a month, every 30 days. I just told you Detroit went bankrupt. Detroit, the people are leaving in droves. The city's crumbling. We're going to spend $1 billion+ a month in order to affect a no-fly zone. What else result would it have, according to the general of the joint or the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? $1 billion a month, ineffective. We would end up with boots on the ground inside of Syria, even though it's a no-fly zone. The Syrians possess the technology to shoot down our warplanes, leading to pilots on the ground, leading to soldiers going in to extract pilots on the ground. Boots on the ground, ineffective, money-wasting boondoggle that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, top military man in this nation, says is going to be a waste of time and a waste of money. What will happen? Will we listen to the advice of the chairman, or will we plow on to war? If history is a guide, we are going to go to war. We are going to destabilize this region. We're going to topple a sovereign nation. We're going to go in and kill their leader on public TV, and we're going to call it a victory. If you want proof of this, just look at what Congress did today. Even though most of Congress will admit openly that they understand that arming the rebels inside of Syria is tantamount to arming Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, which is Al-Qaeda, arming the same people that we've been told we should be afraid of, and we are invading countries over and have been for over a decade. Even though Congress will tell you they understand it's not going to affect the outcome of the Civil War positively for the rebels, and Al-Qaeda will be the one who benefits from it, they still gave President Obama permission today to do just that. Go ahead and arm up the rebels, arm up the factions that we know are enemies of this country, at least we've been sold that, in order to what? Destabilize the region. This is the real news we don't get to listen to because we're fed cancerous garbage from a mainstream media that is absolutely benefiting from the power elite remaining in control. All right, let me bring on my guest right now. We're only going to have about a minute, Melanie, and then we're going to go to a break. But thank you very much for joining me tonight. I greatly appreciate it. It's 3 a.m. in Brussels.
It is.
Where Melanie's at, and she stayed up all night partying. And if you're on Justin TV, you can see her. She's in her party outfit, so get on over there and check us out. Check her out. And but anyway, welcome to the program. Great to have you on. Melanie, tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization you're representing here tonight.
Yeah, so I'm going to make it quick because we have only 1 minute to the break. But just
if we get cut off, we'll pick it up after the break. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Well, I'm German. I live in Brussels for over 20 years, and I came here to work for the European Commission, in fact. And I'm representing an organization that is called the European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, which raises awareness.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I talked too long, like I do every single night, and I cut you off. Melanie, we'll be right back with you. We'll pick it up from there. You're a German living in Brussels, and it's 32 degrees Celsius right there at 3 a.m. in the morning. For those of you who don't know, that's about 87 degrees Fahrenheit at 3 a.m. That's why she's scantily clad in a tank top today. We'll be right back with Melanie and more Wide Awake News Radio. Hang tight. Melanie Vritschan is our guest tonight from the European Coalition Against Covert Harassment. She's a German who's living in Belgium. It's very warm right there now, about 90 degrees, and it's also 3 a.m. And I want to again thank you very much for staying up and being with us tonight. Now, I told her during the break we've had Lars Strigard on before. We've talked about implants. We've talked about this stealth weaponry that is being used against the people of the United States, Canada, of this entire globe. And Melanie agreed to come on and tell us her story. But please, Melanie, continue, if you will. You're German, living in Belgium. You originally went there. For those that don't know, Brussels is where the EU Parliament meets. That's where the center of power is with the European Union. And I told you, maybe towards the end of the program, we'll talk about what's going on economically or what you're seeing in Europe, because, man, it is very, very difficult times to be living inside the European Union. I lived over there in the late 80s, early 90s, and that was the time when the wall came down, and there was a lot of turmoil then inside of Germany, but nothing like there is right now all over Europe. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit towards the end of the program. European Coalition Against Covert Harassment. What is their mission? What is your guys' function? And how do you do it?
Yes, so the European Coalition Against Covert Harassment has been quite recently founded. Actually, we founded it on the 9th of June in Stockholm, so it's now. We created it. We had already been working together as a group before. We created it because we wanted to raise awareness to the problem of non-consensual experimentation using modern cybernetic technology on unwitting citizens in the UN, European Union and beyond. And so our main goal is basically to raise awareness for these crimes and ultimately have appropriate EU legislation to be created to protect our citizens from these kind of intolerable abuses. That's our mission. And it's written right into, I guess, I don't know if it's the EU Constitution or the EU Charter. Human dignity is inviolable. That's a hard word for me to say. I mean, I like the phrasing of it, but I think it goes a long way to show that there are covert powers that really don't care about the will of the people. We see the same thing with our own Constitution. You know, we're supposed to have inalienable rights, common law rights, and I believe that, you know, some of the language in the EU is very similar, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be trampled over if we don't have watchdog organizations watching out for the freedom of the people, correct? Yes, absolutely. So we as the public, we never should forget our duty of oversight, what our politicians are doing. And at the moment, it certainly seems that, our governments, our politicians are working more for, industry than they are for the people. That is sure. And that can be very clearly seen in the results we had, because what we're doing together with an organization that you already know, Charlie, the International Center Against Covert Technologies, where I'm also, in the leadership team, right, is that we have been collecting scientific evidence to prove that these crimes are happening over several years. And how we do this is that we scan people for radio frequency emissions. So we regularly do scanning meetings, events, where members of the public can come to us that believe that this could be happening to them. Right. We scan their body for radio frequency emissions. Once, if the person comes up positive, we then encourage them to help us with medical imagery like CT scans or MRI scans to see if this anatomical focal point where we could measure the emission, we see something what we call an unidentified bright object, which is basically an implant. All right, hold on a sec here. Melanie, hold on one sec, because we're getting a little I'm getting a little feedback. Gary, are you hearing this too?
Yeah, all of a sudden, Melanie's audio went caca on me. I'm trying to clean it up, but it looks like it's just that that international Skype connection. I don't think it's echoing from her system. Melanie,
yeah, so
Melanie, I'm gonna ask that you turn off your video. We want to hear what you're saying. Obviously, your message is much more important than your pretty face, although it is a very pretty face. We'd like to hear your message.
So, Melanie, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but
okay. Gary, why don't we do this? We're only about a minute before the break, so maybe disconnect from Melanie and try to reconnect with her, and I'll just I'll recap what she was talking about. Does that work, Gary?
It works.
All right. All right. In a nutshell, I'll try to reiterate a little bit while Gary disconnects Melanie, and we try to get her back before the next segment. But large regard, we've had him on before. We've talked about how their organization, well, Melanie's in Brussels, who she's a member of both organizations, but hers, European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, is doing a lot of the same work that Lars is. They're having meetings. They're using equipment to scan individuals to see if they give off RF frequencies. Now, when we get her back, we'll. Melanie, are you back?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's still a little bit wonky, Gary.
Yeah, it all of a sudden went a little haywire.
Yeah. Here's what we'll do, guys. We're going to take our break now. This is about a 3-minute break. That'll give us time to try to clear this up. We'll be back with Melanie and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Please hang tight. All right, guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Our guest tonight is Melanie Vritschan, and she is back, at least with her audio. We have her back on, and we'll continue the conversation. European Coalition Against Covert Harassment. What does that mean? European Coalition Against Covert Harassment. We could say that's the NSA, harassing the people of the country and the world covertly, but that isn't what the ECATCH is all about. Melanie, let's get into it a little bit, because so there's probably people going to be listening to this that are by this point wondering what we're talking about. Why would you have to scan somebody with a device to see if they're broadcasting RF? And why don't you give us a background to what you guys are scanning for and how an individual could be broadcasting RF?
Yes. Okay. So we're scanning these people because people can come to us that think that they might be victimized by technology, new technology, basically implanted with an RFID device. And so we're scanning their bodies, and once they come up positive, as I said, we ask them to help us a little bit with medical imagery to see if we can match up where we had the emissions coming from, if we can see which is an unidentified bright object, which is basically an implant. And then this is what is really important, what we've just done in our, in order to prove this.
Right.
We have the people that we scanned in London already in the preliminary scan. Again, in Belgium, in a Faraday cage, in a research facility that I found, to see if we got the same results, if people came up positive also in the Faraday cage. So to rule out any that it could come from the emission, the radio.
Okay, that's something. Oh, sorry to cut you off. But you mentioned a Faraday cage, and that's something that I haven't heard before with your guys' efforts. Is that new? Where you put it in a Faraday cage just to rule out any RF transmission from an outside source?
Well, it's basically our scanning protocol, if you want to. So preliminary scan, medical imagery, and then the Faraday cage scan. We have just done that in a research facility last October here in Belgium. So we had 14 victims that we scanned previously in London that came up positive. We also scanned them in the Faraday cage. And we also had a control group, which were basically volunteers, people that had no signs or symptoms that are generally associated with electronic terrorism. We scanned them as well. And this is the results are very substantial because very, very important, because the people that we scanned before that came up positive in the preliminary scan also came up positive in the Faraday cage. And
okay.
the control
Well, let me ask you this. Would it be the 14 people that came up with a positive, they came up that they were broadcasting, right, out their body?
Yes.
So you put them into a Faraday cage. For those that don't know what that is, they're completely surrounded by metal, in a metal cage, so no electronic signals can enter into that to that space. So if they use their equipment and they detect RF frequency, then it came from that person, period. Out of the instances that you described here, have any of them went further to get CT scans to see if they could find the device?
Well, in fact, this is the second stage. So to explain it again, we do a preliminary scan.
Right.
And then the people that come up positive there, then we ask them to help us with MRI scans, CT scans, to see if we can match where we found the emission, on the pound, if we can match that up. And then we go into the Faraday cage. So all of the people that we scanned in the Faraday cage should have gone to get MRI scans or CT scans.
Gotcha.
But what you must know is that the implants today are basically so evolved, the technology is so advanced that we're talking about nanotechnology here, which is very difficult, if not impossible, to to see on CT scans or MRI scans. For example, we have an American who is actually an elected official now in California, who is called David Larson. This person was victimized by nanotechnology implants, I think already almost 15 years ago, so probably his technology would be considered old by today's standards.
Sure. And
the gentleman had the implants removed. There were about 30 devices that were removed from him.
30?
30.
Wow.
Yes. And these could not be detected on the medical imagery that we currently have. So it is very difficult to spot this technology, and where we have a chance is already considered old technologies. It's RFID chips, basically, that are basically the size of a grain of rice, but that is already considered very old technology. So with this we still have a small chance to discover these.
Right.
With the new technology implants, and for example, myself, I've been victimized by a technology that is called Smart Dust, which has been financed and developed by DARPA, which is commonly better known by Magellan's. Well, my technology, the technology, nanotechnology I've been victimized with, you cannot see them on the medical imagery that we currently have.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm sure there's some people wondering right now. The implants themselves,
Yes.
A, how do they get there? And B, who's putting them in? And C, why?
Very good questions. Yeah, so what I can say of the people that we have tested for RF emissions is that they either had surgery before, so with a general anesthetic, or they had been vaccinated. They had gotten some kind of injections, often vaccines, for example, flu vaccines, for example.
Okay.
So because this technology is so advanced, Charlie, that all you need actually to get that into a person is a needle, basically, an injection. So it's very easy to get victimized by this technology. And we tested the people that were symptomatic. But many people may actually have already been implanted and do not have any symptoms.
Okay. That answers the how. Surgery. Maybe you had surgery, or you were vaccinated, or you had an injection of some sort. Anybody that's ever been in the military understands that you're going to get injected up one side, down the other when you go in. So there's certainly opportunities throughout life where this technology could be placed into you. Now, I'm going to go to the question of who's doing it.
Well, what we know is that who has access to the technology is certainly the military and the secret services. So what appears is that we, the victims, are most probably victims of some illegal military weaponry testing. So I believe that before implanting you, people are actually profiled. But what is the big difference to what it used to be before? You know, this actually the miniature electrodes are not something new. They have existed since the 50s. But what is the big difference to this illegal military testing going on is before the people that were used in these criminal tests were basically people that were considered a vulnerable group, like, okay, single women, patients, you know, psychiatric patients, soldiers, the elderly. But now it is anybody. The general population is targeted. And to give you a very concrete example, which is very, how do you say, upsetting to me, and I think to any parent probably, is that when we scanned the victims, we had also several small children that came up positive, which means that these young children of 5 years or even younger had been victimized by this technology and covertly implanted. So that's very concerning, because it is actually making out of the person a biological robot.
Right. And doing it. Yeah, I remember having these discussions before on this topic, that when people would when you would do a group of out of the population, it was always the military that seemed to be targeted more. You know, a huge percentage of folks that were in the military had this kind of technology implanted in them. We'll pick up the conversation there with Melanie and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Please hang tight. All right, guys. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, joined by Melanie Vritschan. We're having some technical difficulties, but the key to it is that I'll ask a question, then I'll just be quiet. And as long as I'm not speaking, it's not picking up feedback and kicking it back. So we answered the question of how surgical implants, injections, vaccines, that kind of thing. The who is military. You know, initially, who would be placing this in there? Military, intelligence, or secret services. I guess the question that I want to get to next is the why, Melanie. Why is this technology being unleashed? Not just at people here, not just people in Europe, but it seems to be global in nature. So why are they doing it?
It is certainly global. It's a global phenomenon. We have victims from all over every country, every continent, almost. So, why these are, if you ask me, illegal weaponry testing. And it seems to be more weaponry testing than illegal biomedical research, although that's also part of it. Well, why? First of all, it is to gain absolute control over the person, over the citizens. Probably they cannot handle the current world population. So you must know that these are really weapons of mass destruction. In fact, the UKatch general manager, Magnus Olsen, was just interviewed last week, I think, by Russia Today, by a journalist who's called Daniel Estlin. And at the end of his program, he said that, these are weapons of mass destruction, I can confirm that, and that these kind of new weaponry is today what used to be in the 20th century the atomic bomb. So it is certainly to test the weapons, reduce the population, and gain absolute control over us, people like you and me. So that is what I think is the object.
when you say weaponize, they're using as a weapon, is it a control weapon or literally a weapon to kill? Because I mean, I can understand the broadcasting of certain frequencies that we've interviewed people that have been affected to the point where they thought they were crazy. So when you're talking about this being weaponized, how does that work? Melanie, do we have you still?
Yes, I didn't catch the last bit, but yes, you were asking how, for the weaponization, how can this be weaponized and what was it for? Well, it can be both. It can be for the control of the person. It certainly leads to absolute control over the victim, but it can also be used to kill the person. So in a very, let's say, I would call it the crime of silence, which means, first of all, it creates many health problems from, like, for example, cancer. It can create heart attacks. We must also say that the victims that are, people that have been legally implanted with this technology are often also, very often, the victims of directed energy weaponry attacks. So this creates cancer, various forms of cancers. I would like to mention that we have one victim, Bob Boyce, who's an inventor, and in fact he found out that he was implanted because he had a cancer, a very, very aggressive cancer. He thought he was going to die from it, and he tested some equipment in the Faraday cage, and the Faraday, the detector went off at a certain, where his tumor was. And they operated him, they took the tumor out and found in the tumor a microchip.
Wow.
And later it came back, the cancer came back very aggressively, and he found another spot on his body where a tumor was and where he emitted radio frequencies, and they opened the tumor up again and found another microchip. So we can very safely say that this creates cancer, but it creates also other ailments, very, very, it creates a very bad health state, and you can very easily kill a person with these weapons and just, stopping the heart, for example. Okay,
with about 5 minutes left, I want to ask you about your own personal experience with implant. You have been implanted. When do you think that occurred, and how did you find out? And have you done anything in order to remove the implant?
Well, I can only say that in 2008 I underwent what I was told was very routine surgery, basically to remove a fibroid in my uterus, because they were told, okay, if you want to have children, we better take it off. And very soon afterwards, when I did indeed get pregnant, and I have a little son of almost 4 years. And what happened afterwards, and because I'm victimized by very special technology, which is a very invasive technology, it's probably, in case of implanted technology, the worst you can get. And the particular sign of this technology is that actually it's called smart dust. Once it's in your body, it's self-assembles and auto-replicates in your body to create a complex system of wiring all over through the body. And at the same time, your body sheds some foreign material, because it's something that comes into your body that the body doesn't recognize, and it wants to get rid of it. So your body starts to shed this very, very strange material that I had analyzed under the microscope by a toxologist here in the Leuven University Clinic, who confirmed to me that it is inorganic, synthetic material, but he could not identify it under the microscope. He said he had never seen anything like that. So I've come a long way since that. I have done my own research, fell onto the research of an American toxologist, Dr. Hildegard Stenninger, who did extensive research on this specific technology. And it is indeed nanotechnology, very advanced one, that self-assembles and auto-replicates, and that you cannot, Charlie, just remove, because it basically covers your whole body. It is,
it's like cancer itself. Just it spreads throughout your entire body. Yeah.
works on the cellular level. So it uses artificial DNA to grow. And so it's not something you can just cut out, basically. So at the moment, I'm following a program of it's called the pain-free clinic, e-clinic, a natural path, basically, where I have good results, which means that my body starts to clean itself. It sheds a lot of this material. But I still don't know if it will be, possible to totally dismantle this technology in my body and that it just pushes it out.
Let me ask you.
I'm encouraging that.
That is good. Let me ask you this: why do you think you were implanted?
Well, I think that is. Well, first of all, I'm a woman. I was quite successful in my life, in my career also. And at that point, I was a little bit disappointed with my partner that I had at the time, who didn't really want to commit. And I made the mistake to listen to a friend's advice to say that, if he still is so undecided about having children, you can register in the university clinic in Brussels and basically get inseminated. I don't think I would have gone through with it, to be honest. I think I did it more out of in a moment of, let's say, about anger or frustration. I didn't really think. But that is my theory. I don't have proof for this, but I'm pretty sure that is what happened. That I put myself basically on the map for these criminals to experiment on myself, illegally. Because certainly on the paper I looked certainly promising. I was a single woman. I'm German. I'm not from here. I have no family support around me, and at least on the paper I looked single.
Right.
So I think that, and at that period I had to undergo the surgery. So I think they basically thought that was the perfect opportunity to implant me.
You fell into the right parameters as a test subject.
I think I profiled people and I fitted the profile, so to speak.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I didn't know if it was your past experience with working at the EU, if it made you a target because you were, it's some way they can monitor the efforts of your work daily when you're in and amongst all these, these political figures.
When I was implanted, it's true that I worked for the European Space Agency on a program, on a satellite navigation program, and many people told me, well, don't you think it's linked to this? But I personally do not think so. I think it was when I registered, unfortunately, I did this absolutely fatal mistake to register in the university clinic as a single woman.
Do you think they look for people that are, because if you like you say on paper, you might look needy, like you're willing to take part in an experiment for money or because you can't get medical treatment another way or something like that. Yeah, it certainly makes sense. I just looked at the clock and we're rapidly running out of time here. You have a meeting coming up here in August. Why don't you tell us about that and what's going to happen in about 40 seconds here? Go ahead.
Yes, that's true. It's on the 3rd of August. It's on the ISAAC website, so isaac.org. It is in England, in a place that is called, a lovely place called St. Anne by the sea. It's near Manchester, Liverpool, and what we're going to do there is what I just described before. We're going to scan the public, members of the public, free of charge for radio frequency emissions. So anybody who thinks that could be victimized by this technology, that this could have happened to him, or wants to find out, is very welcome, and we'll scan him or her free of charge, and we're doing this on
and it's absolutely free. Melanie, I thank you very much. I appreciate you staying up so late with us tonight. It's now 4 a.m.
Thank you for inviting me.
And guys, I apologize for the technical difficulties again. I'm definitely going to get Melanie back on, hopefully with a cleaner connection. But Melanie, thank you very much for your work and sharing your story. We'll get you back on again real soon. Guys, stay tuned for Jeff Rentz. He's coming up next. Have a good night. Peace.
Yes, have a great day.
Yeah, you have a great day.